Okay, so we're going to kick off week 6, and it's the data import. So what I've done is that I've written it up quickly, the topics that we're going to cover, and again, Kiva is stepping in for this one, so much appreciated, Kiva. The exam has 14% of this data analytics and management. Really, it's one of those areas that the exam always has a couple of key topics on. And so, you know, you'll have what's that, about 8 or 9 questions in the data and analytics. So you'll have someone reporting, but this is really about how you get the data in and out. So the topics we'll run through, just some basic terminology in the background about what happens with your IDs, your deletes, duplicate management, backups. And the main part is this import wizard. So backups is really just something that you need to be aware of if you're going to be importing and exporting data. It's just a handy thing to know, but we've had organizations that don't do regular backups, unfortunately. And you know, learning is really handy. Again, I'm not going to jump into it, but this table here for the exam, I've put some asterisks against a couple of the key parts. They're really handy to know for an exam. Got some modules, got some links. I also wanted to mention that David Liu, who's a guru, he's got a SFDC 99 channel website. He's been creating content for many years. He and a lot of other people publish on Pluralsight. If you want to join up for Pluralsight, they've got a week of free access. So jump on, use the training as much as you can for that week. Yeah, it's really handy. So I've put the instructions here that David has posted. I think it was today. Being the US, the 12th here is the 11th over there. So it's got started, I think, today. I wanted to quickly mention probably the first one. So in regards to your IDs, Kiva will show you when you're going through the importing. One of the key things that catches people sometimes is when you have IDs on your records, they're automatically generated like a GUID. You'll have a 15 or 18 character ID. Basically, the difference is that the 15 character one is case sensitive and the 18 character one isn't. So just be mindful that you can sometimes use the wrong ID. And if you're copying and pasting, sometimes that case is kind of sensitive. It's not really something that would be covered off in the exam, but it's something that if you don't, if you're not aware of, you try and match records when you're doing your imports, it's it can save a whole lot of time if you know that case sensitivity. And yeah, really I'll hand over to Kiva. I'll jump back into when we go through a data loader, because I've got the old version installed on my machine. So instead of using the online version, I'll show you what the old clunky version is. So Kiva, hand over to you, mate. I will just share. Where am I going? Where am I going? Stop share. Sorry, I'm just losing it. David, you good now?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. All right. Yeah, as Kel was saying, I'll be doing going over the data import part of the exam. As you briefly mentioned, similar to the process automation, it is really about learning this table. It is, of course, good to grab some experience using it. But for example, I hadn't used Import Wizard or Data Loader before the exam. I don't use them at the moment either because we use a paid Excel Connect product. So to pass the exam, it's very important to just know this table. The asterisks are good. If it's, and again, it's not about what you could do. For example, you could import 20,000 contacts using Data Loader, but it's what is the most Salesforce correct answer that they're looking for. Also, something to note is in the object support, the data import wizard, while both of them do all custom objects, only a couple of standard ones are supported with the data import wizard. And I believe they're contacts, accounts, campaign members, leads, and solutions. So for example, if you wanted to import 20,000 cases, you wouldn't be able to use the data import wizard. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And then the other things like exporting, you can't do exports with data wizard. But one thing that is extra functionality that you can do with the import wizard that you can't with Data Loader is the workflow, invoking workflows when you import import data. So for example, if you had a contact and you had a flow that triggers when a contact is created to create a couple of tasks, maybe you wanted to get in touch with them, say, hey, how you going? You could run that flow when you imported the contacts to use Data Wizard. However, not so much with the Data Loader. I'll briefly mention the soft and hard deletes. When you delete something, a record in Salesforce, it's what is called a soft delete. It's moved to the recycling bin, and it can be queried or restored, and it will stay in this recycling bin for 15 days until it's deleted permanently. You can access these records in the recycling bin in Classic, but not from Lightning. So if you wanted to go and review them or delete them early, you would have to toggle over into Lightning and search for the recycling bin. And you might want to do this because the records that are in the recycling bin still count towards your data limit and any of the limits on your org. So if you're jam-packed for space, you might want to go in there and delete them. Otherwise, it's generally fine to leave them for the 15 days before they're permanently deleted. And with a tool I'll show you later, if you keep the Salesforce ID, you can run like undelete pushes into Salesforce to restore any of those deleted data. With the duplicate management, as you can see down on the table, that the import wizard can catch duplicates, or will catch the duplicates. And say for contacts, that would be matching on your email address or first name, last name, or a mixture of like a first name, last name, and your mailing address. But things like the Data Loader will not. In Salesforce, in your settings, however, you have duplicate management tools, so you can create your own matching rules. So you might say, I want to create a new rule that matches on the contact or the account. And here you could say, for example, if any of these fields, if their phone number is an exact match, or their account name is an exact match, and you wanted to do that as an OR, and you can build very complex matching criteria. Not that it's necessarily the best thing to be too strict on matches, because you would prefer that you found more potential duplicates that weren't, than having it so strict that you never found any duplicates. So it's generally good to have it a bit looser, but then it gets to a point where you don't want it too loose, because you don't want it to match on every single record. When you have your matching rule, you can activate it. Cool. And the second half to your duplicate management is your duplicate of rules. So you could create a new rule, and we'll use my one for the account. And here we can do a couple of, so here is you choose how Salesforce will react. So for example, if we had our match, the matching rule, we'll use my test rule that I just created, and I'll show you the matching criteria. We have options for when it's created. I could choose to actually block a record from being created if it was a duplicate, which generally not recommended, just because if you're, say, pushing it through using your import wizard, you won't really get much feedback on that. And when people are just using the system and they're creating things, people can get upset that they're just being blocked from creating something, and it's throwing up an error. So it's good to allow, and you can just show an alert. So if you go to create a duplicate and you have this alert on, it'll just say, are you sure you want to create this record? It is a potential duplicate, just letting you know, but your users can still create it if they wanted to. And you have the same for the edit. And then you can have some more conditions to filter out records from going into the duplicate rules. So, for example, you could say based on industry, maybe if the industry doesn't equal, and here's a handy tip instead. If you can't remember any of the values of a pick list, you're able to use this little search icon and move over. Hope everyone can see that. It just pulls the whole list of the pick list, and for checkboxes it'll be true, false. So I don't want my duplicate management rule to run on not-for-profits. Sorry. And then I can save my duplicate rule, and I can activate it. And so going forward, if I were to create a duplicate account, which I'll actually go through now, and so now when I go to create it, I should receive an alert. Yep, similar record exists, and I have this alert that pops up. But if I go, no, I am 100% sure this is a different account, then I can continue going forward, and I'll still be able to do it. However, I think it's, so in the related tab, normally I'd have mine always showing like moved up to the top, so you don't have to go to related. Anyway, you
Can I
can
ask
see
a
here.
question, Kiva?
Yeah, of course.
When would you ever want there to potentially have to? Would there ever be a case where you wanted to have, or you wanted to allow duplicates with the same name?
Not necessarily. Not. It's more unlikely for an account. But say for a contact, you could have 2 John Smiths. So in that case, you just because they have the same first and last name, it doesn't mean you don't want to have them. And normally, say for a contact, you would say fuzzy first name, last name. So if there was like some spelling mistakes, then you would still pick them up just to flag them, and then you get the human to go through and say, oh no, this is actually a different person or not. But that's why it's good to include things like your email.
So you've got different personal identifiers as well. So it's not, it's obviously not just going to be, because there will be multiple people with the same name. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And for things like not-for-profits, like email isn't a win-all situation either, because multiple people in the same household, for example, might all use the same email address. So it's good, you want to, maybe flag on email if they have the same last name and a fuzzy first name. It's generally the rule to go with for contacts.
Cool.
But you never know, and you just normally trust the user to make the right call, and if not, then it'll come up with a potential duplicate.
Cool, thank you. That makes sense.
No worries. All right, what is next? Backups. Yes, it's good to back up your data. Similar to having a website, it's just something that businesses should do. You can't schedule exports, we can't do any exports with your data import wizard, but you can schedule batch exports from your data loader. So you could say once a month we want to do an export of, say, our opportunities, and that would run through all your open opportunities, for example. And you could set up batch exports with your data loader, just to make sure that you keeping a copy of your backups. You can do exports, say, even to AWS with some of their products. That's where Salesforce keeps their backups, is on AWS. It's something you should be doing, and available to you with the data loader.
Just to add to that, Salesforce just announced an on-platform product, and I don't believe that there's any details regarding pricing, but there's a lot of App Exchange products. Own Backup is probably one of the market leaders, invested in by Salesforce Ventures. Spanning is another good one, and there are a couple of others. It's interesting. Most customers think that because it's in the cloud, backups automatically happen, but Salesforce are responsible for the platform. The customer is responsible for managing their own data.
We've been recommended, and we are going with Own Backup for the project I'm on, and I believe the Salesforce are going to have their one up and running sometime in 2023. Does that sound right? Yep.
Cool. So we'll move on to the import options, which we also covered earlier. So if it's not in this table, for example, so you have your data import wizard, your data loader, or loader IO. You have your App Exchange products. So for example, if you wanted to import, say, 10 million records, Salesforce would say you should check out the App Exchange, or otherwise you've got the Apex data loader, which I must admit I don't have any experience with. So maybe Kel could talk to that a bit later. But it's mainly focused on.
I'll give you the punchline, Kiva. It's not in the exam. So basically, it's the coded way where you can do it from the command line and things like that. It's the Excel Connect that we're going to talk about, the App Exchange products, the Apex data loader, the coding options, not in the exam, not in that table that I highlighted down the bottom. The admin exam is really to cover your core 2 options. We're just rounding it out with like the backups, the duplicate management, those kinds of things to show you, so that when you're using, when you're experimenting yourself, you can understand a little bit more about not just the exam, but how to use the product or platform.
Cool. So in my test org that I fixed up the label on the logo, it's excellent. I went through and I deleted all my contacts. I deleted the opportunities. I also deleted the cases which I was going to use for data loader, but I was having troubles downloading that. So I'll get Kel to run through the data loader a bit later after I'm done with the import wizard. So I'll go through and re-import the contacts and hand it over to Kel to show you the data loader. So for the import wizard, just go into your setup, you type in import to the quick find, and it has its own inside the app. And here it's I had a first little test run yesterday. It's the first time I've used the import wizard. It's very self-explanatory. Here it gives you just a brief overview that before you use it, you should clean your data so you have fewer errors. And it's about having the best data you can in Salesforce so it can help you run more efficiently. So it's up to you, the user or the business, to clean your data. It's handy, but not necessary to make sure. I'll bring up my Excel document. So this is the contacts that I had exported from Salesforce. Found it very interesting that most of the contacts for their mailing street, they had pretty much their whole address. So I'm not sure whether that was just something for the export I did, or whether that was just the case. And I guess not really relevant, but I just thought it was interesting. Anyway, but along the top here, I've got the field names, and these are the API names in relation to contacts. So for example, I have here the account that the contact is related to. And so to get to like that field in relation to the contact is account.name. So yeah, I've got the API of each of the fields. That is not what I wanted. So what you'll see that because I've done that, when I go to import them, Salesforce will have done most of the mapping for me. And then yeah, just this final notice not to import too many at one time. Some awesome frequently asked questions and some additional resources to help you if you need. Yeah, I'll run through a quick demo launching it. And so here we have the standard objects that you can use, being your account and contacts, leads, solutions, and campaign members. And then you have your tab of custom objects, which will have every single one that you have. Now, if I had prepared earlier, I would have my document ready. So just bear with me 1 second. All right, first I will pick the accounts and contacts. Here you have the choice to create new ones. This is your insert, this is your update, or you can upsert. So if you have a mixture of both new and existing ones you wanted to update, that's what you would use. I've just got all new ones. And here we're doing, for your duplicate management, make sure whether it exists or not. So you might say, the given name, which would be the concatenation of the first and last name. email or no matching, up to your preference there. For the accounts and contacts, I'm not sure why. I'm sure there's a Salesforce reason why they've grouped them together, so you can import accounts and contacts at the same time. So if you're doing that, you could decide if you wanted to match for duplicate accounts or not. Here you choose whether you want to trigger workflows. And
Mate, I think the reason was to be able to import from an address book, like on your right, you see Outlook and stuff like that, where it's a blend of the account and the contact fields.
Nice. Yes. Very, very good reason. Here we have the record type for the account. We have account organization, the one I created last time for their account type. Here you can decide to assign all contacts to a campaign. So for example, if you were a not-for-profit and you were translating from Excel and you had a donation campaign that you wanted to load everyone up to, you could assign them to a campaign. I thought this would come up with a campaign I could do. I think because I'm not using campaigns, that might be why it didn't show up. Yeah, I think that it's supposed to show up with a list of campaigns.
Yeah, your user ID probably doesn't have the marketing user attribute.
Yeah. Yes, let's have that up. Yeah. Anyway, I will upload my CSV, which you can drag and drop, and then separated by comma or tab, character code, that sort of crazy stuff. And so here we can see that my fields have mostly mapped themselves. And as I was saying, yeah, like for the address books, as Kel was saying, should I say, you can do accounts and contacts at the same time. But in this case, I only have contacts. So I will go through and delete any of these mappings that include the account. So it doesn't error being like, why is there no data for this field? But you can also see that while it has mapped some fields for me, that I could still change them if I really wanted to. So yeah, for example, if I wanted to change mailing street to billing street, that's something I can do. The account ID, I will map to my contact account ID, which I thought was supposed to work, but when I did my test run earlier, it didn't actually map the accounts. So I'm not sure if that's because you can't create relationships on Import Wizard. Again, I'll throw to Kel on that one, or whether I just did it wrong.
I wouldn't like to say on a recording that you did it wrong, mate.
I probably did it wrong. Yeah. So again, so not again, but if I was to be upserting, I could fill in the ID as a unique identifier. Yeah, I'll go through and I'll upload it here. Here it shows that I had mapped 17 fields, but I didn't map 2. I start the import. Yeah, and I can view my results. It shows me that I processed 19 and failed 3 because I went through and with a couple of the email addresses, I included a symbol just to see whether it would load or not. And yeah, it shows you that there's a couple that didn't load, but even though they didn't load, the rest still did. So for example, these ones here, the email address had this ampersand, which is, and this one here, which is illegal for an email field. So they didn't, they didn't load. Yeah. And now if I go to my contacts, they should be there. There you go. Yes, and without the linked account name, because I did it wrong, but that is how you use the import wizard sort of correctly. Yeah. For the data loader, just before I hand over to Kel on that, you get the file from inside and you follow the, well, we download it from inside Salesforce, but it's an outside Salesforce application. And with that, I will run over to Kel for him to show you the data loader.
Do you want to just have a quick look at data loader IO first?
Yes, sure. I haven't used this either. So I imagine we do just, we log in. Yes, messy. Excellent. So this is the online version of data loader with your basics, how to use it, going through import, export, deleting, documentation, all the good stuff. And here, yeah, with new tasks, you can, batch run an import. And if you, I imagine if you didn't want to, if you had multiple orgs going, you could add a new org here. If you upgraded, it seems. Insert update or insert upsert update, the same as the import wizard. Your objects here being all the all the standard and custom objects that you could ever want. And yeah, upload my CSV. I didn't create a CSV for my cases, so I'll do opportunity. Yeah, and we go through the mapping. So our account ID has linked to account ID. The name isn't important because that goes off the account ID. Name, stage, amount, close date, all those fields have already synced because similar to my accounts, the name or the column name is the API name of the field in Salesforce. With our mapped and unmapped fields, if we had lots of them, like 50, it'd be handy to look at them here. And then we can schedule task using the bulk or batch API. Salesforce has an import or a DML limit of 200. So if you were to try and do more than 200 inserts at one time, it would fail. 200 queries and it would fail. So it's better. You shouldn't do more than 200. If you've got things going on in the background, sometimes it could be good to do 50 just to make sure everything goes through. Get your results emailed to you. There we go. My insert opportunity is running and it is queued. Yeah, that's how you use the online data loader. Also very simple and doesn't require you to spend an hour trying to download it and failing.
That's a beautiful segue, my friend.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I'll throw over to you while this while it does its thing in the background.
Yep. So all right, so you can see my screen now. Awesome. So data loader, the old version used to be basically a Java app. So the reason why Akiva was struggling is that, you know, who uses the Java runtime engine anymore and downloading all of that stuff. The acquisition of MuleSoft by Salesforce meant that they just decided that data loader IO was a better option. If you do want to use the old school version, you can see that there's a couple of differences. You've got that delete and hard delete. You've got the export. You've got all of the same similar. Good one, Kel. Settings here. So you got your batch size. You'd muck around with your batch size if you were having delays. If those batches were taking a long time for some reason, you just make it smaller. And if it depends on how many records that you've got. It's that whole thing of governor limits in a multi-tenanted architecture. If you're taking too much resources at one time, it will just start to create problems. So if you are having problems with your timeouts and things like that, just modify your batch. But you can see that all of these settings are, most of the time you don't really touch most of them. It's a simpler version. The reason why I got Kiva to talk first is that it saves me a whole heap of time. I'm just cheating in the presentation. Back to you, Kiva. Kiva? You're on mute, Kiva.
I'd lost my Zoom tab in the background. So
because I was presenting, I had to.
Yeah, so my batch finished. I had 19 errors. So I downloaded the errors here, and this is what I was looking at while Co was talking. So I think, yes. So there is a bit of an annoyance because these dates were in Australian dates and not American dates. It said, what is this 2nd of the 20th month? Well, what is the 30th month on the 6th day? So that is something to note. I imagine there would have to be a setting that changes that. I'm not too sure. Haven't used the data loader before. It might be a Salesforce setting. Anyway.
I thought it was on the import form. I thought there was something that said date format, or was that Kel's one?
You might be very, very correct. I'll run an upsert.
Yeah, on the old version, it's got use European date format. So European, not the rest of the world.
No. Oh. Yeah, so because I'm upserting, I can, I'm using this key for an upsert. Yes, very observant. I like it. Cool. So, yep, I could re-upload this, and in the background, it will run. I had a much quicker time at it, probably because it wasn't going through all these errors. And there we go. Still the old amounts. Aha, lots of errors. While we wait for that to load, I will show you Excel Connect. Oh, it's loaded. Yes. So the reason that has happened is because I had queried the data with my Excel connector, and it pulled through the original ID of the record. And then when I deleted it, this is that soft delete where it's still actually in the org. And so when I was trying to upsert based on the opportunity ID, it was actually matching on those soft deleted records and telling me that those actually are already deleted. And you can't upsert a deleted record. So there's an unplanned callback to earlier about soft and hard deleted records. Excellent. Anyway, I'll keep moving forward with Excel Connector because it is just a great product. If you are a not-for-profit, you can go into the, I can never pronounce their name, but it is
Zappix.
Yes, that one. So to them, you can email them, tell them that you're a not-for-profit, that you're looking for a tool to manage your data for importing, backing up, and they will give you a free license, which is excellent.
Or you can just pay for it, which is really good value as well. It's a couple $100 a year. We've got licenses, it's well worth it.
Once you start using it, there's not really a good free alternative. It's just really good. I have the 365.
Can I just interrupt and say there was many years ago, there was a free version, which was an add-on for Excel, but that hasn't been supported for many years. It's still well worth the investment.
Yeah. I originally started using this on Outlook web. So I've got the 365 version, which it's limited compared to the normal plugin. So like you can't do merging of duplicates, you can't create fields from in here. There's a whole host of things you can't do, but even with that, it's still really good. So for example, on opportunities, you can run an SQL, and when it loads, you can choose your object that you want to pull out, and then the fields will load that you can pull. So for example, when I had this account.name on my contacts, I went into the account drop down and I picked out the name, and if I grab a couple of these down here, it's building my SQL query for me, and I can do filter values. I want where's industry? I don't want the industry. I want it to not equal. Boom, pulls it all again. I don't want it to equal banking. You can apply that, and it continues to build out your SQL query. If I run this now, it'll overwrite this No, it won't override it. You're opening me up a new tab because it is smart. So yeah, it's pulled out this very unhelpful conglomeration of data about the accounts. It would have been good to pull out the name and the ID. Something I didn't do. That's okay. So you'd generally want to build out your SQL query something like this, so it makes sense with your ID, and then just your relevant information for building it. Here, I pulled out my my contact's first and last name. So if these had been from a different system and I didn't have my contact details, I could run a index match of my contact first and last name with my recently uploaded contacts to match on the ID and like bring that in dynamically. Same with the accounts. And so, yeah, so you can pull reports. I'm not sure how. I haven't pulled a report from it. But when you have a report in Salesforce and you run that, you can just pull it out and it will pretty much export the report. In a similar fashion. Yeah, you can choose to do the same things as your import wizard and jar loader with insert, update, upsert. You can delete and undelete. So that's where you go into the soft deleted products. And you can see my delete from before. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to insert all my products. I have cases here. My data mappings, and it pulls the fields I have at the top here and tries to match them as best as it can to fields in Salesforce. So again, because I've got done a pretty good job, well, I've pulled the API names out, it does a really good job at matching them. It doesn't need to be the API name. If you have the label, sometimes it'll do an okay job at finding the right field, but it's less accurate. So anyway, it's filled in most of the fields that I need for the case. I could choose to do all rows. If I wanted to just select these ones, I could do selected rows like that, or I could choose to do specific rows. Maybe I wanted to do 1, 4, and 10. For example, I will just do all of them though. And if I run and save, it will go through. Yeah, and it goes, sure, that I've successfully done them all. Yeah, it's got my status and it's got the ID of the new case. One thing that is good is when you go to create them, we'll do an update on these ones. Yeah. To save the ID, I've done a quick update and I'm not too sure where they've put it. So you used to be able to select which field you wanted this ID field to fill into. So when you're creating contacts or cases for the first time, it's really good to say, create your own field called ID and go, cool, I want to insert that ID into that field in the first column, so it's not all the way at the end in column Q. Yeah, I hope that showed that Excel connector was nice and easy. Yeah, that's Excel connector. It's powerful. It's good, even when piloted by someone who's stumbling across it. What else do we have? Oh, yes. So other than that, yeah, you got your Apex data loader and your App Exchange products if your import wizard and your data loader isn't like it can't match it. But yeah, I don't think those ones are explored in your first exam. Is there any questions that anyone has to ask me?
So just to quickly recap, the table there, understanding the data processing volume. So understanding, those numbers and which of the options are for those numbers, and which one captures duplicates. They're common exam questions. So understanding this table is really good for the exam. Having some hands-on experience doing a couple, it comes back to you've got your duplicate management in Salesforce, so sometimes it's good in there. You can get App Exchange products, so if anything sits outside the boundary of what is in that table, you'd probably look towards App Exchange products first. And yeah, there's lots of different options as long as you make sure that you do it in batches. You can code it up, and that's what we do for the complex ones, but we try and avoid that. So Kiva, what are you doing?
I've got a couple of minutes. So I was if you were very curious about your recycling bin, switching over to classic, and it's here, and you can set this your recycling bin, and you could decide you wanted to undelete a couple of people if you wanted to, or empty your recycling bin if you didn't want any of your products anymore or any of your deleted stuff.
Is that restricted to certain permission sets?
Yeah.
The ability to access, yeah.
Well, so deleting your organization's recycling bin, your recycling bin, it is still restricted because some people aren't allowed to delete records. But if you're allowed to delete records, you're allowed to empty your personal recycling bin, but not necessarily your entire orgs.
And it is one of those clunky items that hasn't been transferred over to the Lightning experience yet. Yeah. So
same with files. I'm not sure.
One day.
Do they plan to do it?
I think that because it's an admin function, anybody who's an admin can just switch and do it. So I don't think it's a high priority based on other items. If it gets, and this is a note for everybody, if you want a feature, you can go to the App Exchange, the Idea Exchange, and you can log that. And if you get enough votes, it gets rated high enough, it will be selected to be put on the roadmap, and that change will be made. So,
for example, this is one close and near and dear to my heart. I would like to set the default of a quote line item of the quantity to 1, because you can do it with opportunities, but you can't with quotes. So you can go through and upvote, downvote it. You have to log in. If you go to upvote, it'll go, oh, cool, log in first, and then conveniently take you away from the page. That's an annoyance. Oh, no? Maybe they fixed it. They fixed it. Excellent. Originally, when you would log in, it would just take you back to the Idea Exchange, but they fixed that, which is good. And yeah.
Please note the posted dates. So that idea was originally came around in 2013, and it's still not important enough for them to prioritize. I don't want to sound negative on a recording, but some of the logical features that really you would expect to be prioritized aren't.
So this is the prioritization ones. Like you have to get up to that, large amounts to to get it noticed by Salesforce. Sad. Although this is good. Anyway.
All right. Well, that started to take a dark turn. So I'm going to. Any last questions before I stop the recording? Cool. I'll stop the recording, and you can ask your deep and meaningful questions.